The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Current and Joseph Christina as they serve up the hottest photography news and commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 167. I'm Joseph Christina. On last week's show, we covered Apple's Mac OS X exploit, iPhone 6 Plus Bendgate, and the brand new GoPro Hero 4. If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at digitalphotographycafe.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/dphotocafe. Listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music app, or subscribe through iTunes or RSS. So, all right, guys, we are back. As you can see, I am flying solo this week. Trevor says hello. He's extremely busy this week, and he wasn't able to kind of set aside time for the show. It's just kind of hectic for him. So, as we said, you know, the three-legged cat in the sandbox, that's Trevor right now. So anyways, I'm going to do the show with you guys. We're here together, and I just kind of want to get the show, I'm trying to make it a little bit short this week, but kind of just put in all the information I want to give you as quick as possible. There was a lot of things, a lot of happenings that went on, so I don't want to miss any. I didn't want to miss a show this week. So anyways, kind of start out with Apple's demise, let's say, of Aperture. God, I really hate that. This is just one less player out there. I really, really don't like it. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, sure enough, you know, they're going bye-bye. See ya, no more Aperture. But what did Adobe do? Well, they said, you know what? That looks like an opportunity, right? So what did they do? They created a program called Aperture Importer. And what does that do? Sure enough, guys, if you guys have an iPhoto library or an Aperture library, guess what? You use the Adobe's Aperture Importer, and you can bring in all of those thousands upon thousands and thousands of photos. It brings them in so that you'll have two versions, one like a baked version and then one a non-baked version. The baked version is not editable anymore, which makes sense because how it was edited is not the same as Adobe's. So you'll have the two versions. You'll have the one that you created using these other packages and the one that's, let's call it the raw, that you can go and re-edit through, let's say, Lightroom. So it's pretty cool. It brings in your flags, your star ratings, your keywords, your GPS data, your rejects, your color labels and stacks and face tags and all the rest of this stuff. And it brings it in for you. So a lot of that data is not lost, but keep in mind all of that baking that you did, all those ingredients that you stuck in there to create these images will be lost. So is it something for everyone? I don't know. If you're in the Aperture, let's say, environment and you really like it, I wouldn't say right now is the time to go jump into Lightroom. I don't think it's necessary. I think if you are getting everything that you need to get out of Aperture right now, you're pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't go and get nuts with it because it is going to be, number one, a learning curve to go into Lightroom, but also you're going to lose a lot. Now, the other school of thought is lose it now, guys. Just convert because it's gone, right? They discontinued it. But personally for me, I think that if you enjoy Aperture and it's working for you, don't change yet. Just hang in there. Just use it until it's completely dead and they no longer release anything for it. Chances are they'll probably continue to do some updates here, there, and elsewhere. Obviously, there'll be nothing new, but we'll see. So if you want to go and convert over into Lightroom and move into the Adobe sphere, let's call it, you can go to creative.adobe.com/add-ons. Once again, that's creative.adobe.com/add-ons, and then search for Aperture Importer. That's Aperture Importer. And there will be. You can go and bring in all of those photos, both iPhoto and Aperture, right into probably Lightroom is where you'd want to be. So anyways, moving on, another piece of software. So I do like Corel, and Corel has a product that's kind of a product update that just came out. And what it is Aftershot 2. And I'm one of those people that I believe that in every market there has to be competition. If not, what happens is you have a, let's say, well, not to call out, but let's call them out. Let's call it a Microsoft situation. And for many, many years, you had Windows. And then the other operating system that you had that was a direct competitor to it was, you guys hear silence? Yeah, that is the problem. It was no competition. So you went from, Windows 3.1 to a 95 to an XP. All of a sudden, XP was like its highlight. It probably wasn't its best state for Windows XP. And then after that, what did? They made a Vista. Holy hell. What the heck was that? What were they thinking? And it was just kind of downhill from there. There's been a lot of iterations and, that they've gotten better. It's just been a hard go. Why? Because they don't have anyone just biting at their heels. There's no reason for them to innovate, right? Why? Why do they need to? They don't need to, because you're going to buy it anyways. A new release is going to come out and you're going to upgrade. If not, they're going to stop, continuing to update version X. And then what happens? You're going to update anyways, because we're going to force you to. Like they discontinued all support for Windows XP. I think it was at the beginning of this year. Same thing. If you're on XP, you better get off it. You better do it soon, because there's no more updates, security or anything. So this is what ends up happening. So that's one of the reasons why I like Corel being in this field. So Aftershot 2. It is very, very similar to Lightroom, but it's Corel. It does all of your, your cropping, your straightening, your highlight recovery, your noise removal, your color temperature, exposure, highlights, the whole gamut. It does, I think it was 250 raw conversions, raw profiles for cameras. It has 350 different lens corrections built into it. It runs 64-bit architecture, just like a Lightroom would. The full gamut. It does all of your photo management and, of course, your post-production on the photos. And it does it, I believe, fairly well. I've taken a look at the past version. Looked really nice. I have not seen so far Aftershot 2, but we're going to put in a request. And if I can get a copy, and I'm going to take a look at it, and I'm going to report back to you guys and let you know what I think. There is also Aftershot 2, but a pro version, which includes built-in HDR, which is cool. I mean, how many people love doing this HDR, right? High dynamic range type of work, and they've bought packages, $50 here, $100 there, or whatnot to do HDR. Now you don't really need to do it. It's built already into it. It's baked in. The good thing here is, guys, $39 for the Aftershot 2, and then for the pro version, only $20 more. That is really, really reasonable. And I tell you what, remember this. If Lightroom goes paid, where it's a monthly paid subscription and that you can't buy it, right? I think a lot of people are going to look to Corel. Corel, are you listening? They're going to be looking to you for a package that they can purchase outright and be able to use moving forward. Many people do not like paying subscriptions, and every month a chunk of change gets taken out of their account. They don't like it. They want to pay once, and then they decide if they want to upgrade or not. So once again, Corel, you're doing good. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. In a very short period of time, I have a really good feeling that Adobe's going to go subscription everything. And if that's the case, you're going to be getting a lot of clients going your way, a lot of converters coming to you. So anyways, something to look at, Aftershot 2. You can take a look over at aftershot.com, or you can look at aftershotpro.com, or simply go over to corel.com, of course. Moving on, more software. Let's say a few months ago, we talked about a package called Pixelmator, and we looked at it. It's very cool. It's not bad. It's similar to like a Lightroom type of thing, but less of a Lightroom as far as the management goes, more of an editor. So it is not bad. They're doing a really good job with it. But where they've really kind of shined now is I see that now they're offering, or they will be offering soon, a Pixelmator for iPad. Now, what that tells me is they're in the know. They understand that everything is going phablet, tablet, laptop, some type of touchpad or something for editing, and they're going down that route. Now, this is what they're claiming to be a true iOS 8 So it's going to get all that new functionality that gets baked into iOS 8, which is fantastic. It does non-destructive layering. What else do you need? I've said this in the past. If you have Photoshop and you have like Photoshop 7 way back in the day, chances are you probably have everything that you need, right? Because layers, non-destructive layers, was the turning point. That's what we all look for, and that's what we all need, and that's what we got back then. What have we gotten since then? We've gotten some noise stuff. We've gotten a nice way to pull someone off a background, or maybe let's say retouch someone out of a picture. Little basic stuff. But the main crux behind non-destructive, the main crux was the non-destructive layering. The same thing with editing music. You need to be able to do layers, different tracks. You need to do multi-track. The same thing with video. You need a video editor, the same thing. Layering, non-destructive layering. So anyways, they have it. It's built in. They have what is called true to life painting engine. I can see that being very cool, right? So it's a pad. You have like the little stylus. True to life paint, huh? Sounds good to me. We'll see. I don't know. Haven't seen it yet. It's not out yet. It says coming soon, but they're saying the price tag's going to be $4.99. Well, how can you beat that, right, guys? To take a look at it, $4.99. Supposed to do typography, retouching, the whole gamut. So something to look at. We'll let you know once it is available, and if we can get our hands on a copy, we'll let you know what we think about it. Moving on. The biggest thing that happened this week, of course, if anyone has been having the news on even a slight bit, is Apple. They had a big release, like they always do, this yearly or every other year or whatnot, where they release new iPads and new iMacs and whatnot. And that's what they did. They released a new iPad Air 2. They released the iPad Mini 3. This is very interesting. A 5K Retina display iMac. Well, that's going to be coming into my studio right away, because that sounds cool. I can imagine. I mean, we have 27-inch iMacs in the studio throughout, and I love them. It's just, they're awesome. The screens look just impeccable. They're really, really good. In comparison to the other screens that we have Samsungs, we have LGs, we have others. That Apple screen is just amazing. A 5K Retina, that's going to be just, I'm ready for it. I'm all in. So that sounds really good. Also, they did, let's say, a reworking of the Mac Mini. I am a proponent of the Mac Mini. I love that little thing. It is a powerhouse in a tiny box. A powerhouse in a little 9x9x1 or something. Tiny, tiny box. It's basically a full computer in this little tiny enclosure. So they changed the baseline price to $4.99, which is good. It's going to be running 4th gen 1.4 gigahertz dual core i5. That's pretty good. It's going to have 4 gigs of memory, and it's going to run a 500 gig 5400 RPM hard drive in it, and it will have a Intel HD Graphic 5000 card in it, which sounds fabulous. I mean, that's really good for an entry-level machine. What I also just love is they finally got rid of the FW800, the FireWire 800 port. Just killed it. And they added an extra Thunderbolt too. So now we have 2 Thunderbolt ports. Fantastic. So I could get into this all day, and probably I don't want to get into the Apple stuff too much, because I know Trevor loves this, and probably next week we'll talk a little bit about it. But for me, this just says, man, web server all over it. I can cluster these things together and attach just massive Thunderbolt drives on just in a ring. I mean, I could just see a lot of potential with this new price point, and the ability to have 2 Thunderbolt ports on it. Boy, oh boy, there's a lot that you can do with these little monsters, and a lot of people, they don't really realize it. So anyways, before we go any further, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
So, all right, guys, we are back. So, moving from the software into the hardware realm a little bit, probably one of my favorite external drives for backup, for using in studio as well as bringing on location, is the LaCie drives. And I just love these rugged versions of them. And I don't know, I know we've talked about them in the past, especially when we did a interview with them. I believe it was a couple of years ago, at one of the trade shows. I think it was New York City. I don't believe it was on the other coast, but I think it was New York City. I think it was WPPI. But anyways, they have this really nice, it's fluorescent orange. It looks like a Bob's Barricade or one of these cones, you'd see on the street. It's fluorescent. I mean, you can see it from like across the room. And it's a rugged hard drive, external enclosed hard drive. And they just work incredibly, incredibly well. So the new one that they have here, they have 3 different kind of versions. They have an SSD version. They have a 5400 RPM version, and they have a 7200 RPM version. They have USB 3 and they have Thunderbolt. Now, I know everyone's like, oh, Thunderbolt. If you're a Mac guy, you got to get Thunderbolt. Personally, for me, I say, I wouldn't do Thunderbolt. Why? Because I like the idea of having a USB 3 drive that is more agnostic. You can plug it into anything. If you have a Thunderbolt, well, you have to have a Mac. Well, if you have a Thunderbolt, you have to have a Mac that also has a Thunderbolt. That means it has to be newer than, 2012 or something? Whenever that is. The bottom line is USB 3 is fast and it's a little bit more forgiving. Let's say you can use it just about anywhere. Most machines have USB 3 in it. So it comes both ways. I do like just a really good part of it is that it is bus supported as far as electricity, as far as energy. It's getting all of its power from your bus and doesn't need that external brick. So you don't have to carry that extra brick. You can just simply have that little enclosure, stick it into your camera bag with the little tiny connector. It's like a 6-inch connector, and call it a day. That's it. You have everything you need. What's cool is it is impact resistance, shock resistant. You can do like a 6-foot drop on it. I wouldn't do it, but you could. It has that rubber around it. It's just crazy. It also is like an IP54. So what that means is not only water resistant, but dust resistant. It will take like 1 ton of impact as far as pressure resistance. So I guess you can run it over with your car if you wanted to. Don't know if you want to do that. And it also has the 256-bit encryption. So it's like everything you need. Very, very cool. I like it. And like I said, but it has the SSD version, which is 256 gig or a 512 gig, which is a half a terabyte. Not a lot of storage, but fast as heck. And as far as the hard drive side of it, like I said, you have 7200, 5400 as far as speed, and 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte as far as the size goes. Now, they claim 387 megabytes per second. All right. That's not right. It's not right. So real world is this. This is what I get out of it. Real world is approximately 150 megabytes per second read-write. So you're like, well, that's only half or less than half of what they claim. But listen, guys, that's like as fast as an old bus computer. The old machines. That's it. 150 megabytes. That's fast. I'm going to tell you. Perfect example. The Seagate Go Flex. A lot of people use those, right? Well, those things top out at like about 50 megabytes per second, right? This is at 150, almost 3 times as fast. So as far as an external enclosure, that is powered by your bus, that doesn't have to be fed with a brick, as I call it, right? It is extremely fast, very reliable, and all of the impact resistance, water resistant, and everything else, a very, very good buy. So if you're in the market for an external, now bear in mind, we're not being paid for this. They're not a sponsor. This is just real world pro photographer for 20 plus years. I use this drive. The new one looks even better than what I currently have. So I'm going to tell you, this is good stuff because I know from past use, past experience. So anyways, take a look at it. If you're in the market for an external hard drive for a backup or whatnot, definitely look at it. You can even write to these things at 150 megabytes per second. You can write some video to it at a good clip. So definitely worth the money. Take a look at LaCie.com. That's LaCie.com. Take a look at it. Definitely a good hard drive to take a look at because, like I said, it just simply works and it's very reliable. Moving on. I want to give you guys 2 tips for this week. And I like to give you always like something at the end of the show, either something for free or some type of tip. So here's 2 tips. Number 1, try turning off your noise reduction in your camera. People are like, what? Can you even do that? Yes, you can. Most cameras, most DSLRs, you can go in there and turn off noise reduction or reduce it to a minimal. So you say, well, why? Why do you want to do that? Well, most of the time, these cameras are so aggressive with noise reduction. The reason being is because they want to bake the best picture that they can so they can show people coming out of the camera how great their camera is, right? If you have something that's noisy, people are going to look at it like, ooh, that's kind of pixelated. Oh, what is this? Right? So what do? They do the zhuzh. They do the mush, right? They do the mush. And, it's okay. That's not bad. The problem is if you want something like, for example, I'm a fine art. I do my portraits and I do commercial work and I do stars. That's like my thing, branding portraiture. But I also do fine art for myself and I show in galleries. So now when I do fine art, I want just retina bleeding sharpness. I'm the sharpness guy, right? I want really tack sharp images. If you shut off that noise reduction, you can then go in there and say, okay, well, this area, I'm not even going to change the noise reduction on this, even though it's a little bit noisy, just slightly. It's just tack sharp. I want to leave it like that. But over here it's a little pixelated. Well, you can go back in post-production now and go and zhuzh the little area that's a little too noisy, let's say, for your tolerance. Perfect. You have the ability. You have the ability then to make that correction as you see fit instead of allowing the camera to do it for you. And then after the fact, you cannot fix it. Once it's baked into that RAW, you're done. That's it. You can only correct off that RAW. So try giving it a shot. Turn off all noise reduction and then do that noise reduction in Lightroom or in any other type of post-production package that you're using. I think you'll find some amazingly sharper images after the fact. When you can kind of take a look, you're like, wow, that's really, really sharp. Well, this area is, let's go and judge that a little bit. But this area right here, look at this cat's whiskers, because we all know you guys just love to shoot kittens, right? But you look at those whiskers and they're tack sharp, they're bleeding sharp. Well, there you go. Noise reduction was off. Anyways, moving on. One more tip for you before we close the show out. And this is kind of, I'm like, not only do I love the sharpness, but I am the time is money guy. It's just imperative when I'm making products, for the photographers, for you guys out there, my thoughts are always time is money and I want to make stuff sharp. That's just what I do. Time is money. What can I do to save you guys money? So as far as this tip, this is kind of important, and it just has to do with how you approach projects. And people look at things a little bit differently. Everyone has, and as you work as a pro photographer for a certain number of years, I've been doing it for a long time, you kind of get a little bit of a different view of stuff. You put a different shade of gray lens over a project. So you kind of get a little a different perspective, let's say. You got that, shades of gray, right? Anyway, so let's look at this. Let's say you're doing this little project and it's a 1-hour photo shoot and it's just simply a headshot, right? It's a 1-hour headshot and you're the guy, you're like, well, it's $150 for that 1-hour headshot. Okay. Well, let's look at the amount of time. So you think, well, it's $150 an hour, right? That's not too bad. Well, let's take a look at it a little bit, and then we'll kind of get into it a little bit deeper. Well, so you start out, you have the phone conversation. You're just telling these people, yeah, and you're convincing them that they need to get this branding portrait, for their real estate company or for their album cover or whatever it is, and just blah, blah, blah. You just took a half an hour. Then they book with you. Fabulous, right? You got a half an hour in. Right? Then you're going to have to go and you set up your studio. What are you going to do? You're going to do like a green screen. You can pull a different background. You're going to do like maybe a gray screen or possibly a white background, shoot white on white. What are you going to do? You got to set it up, right? Then you have the actual photo session. For how long? Like we said, 1 hour. After that, what do? Unload the camera. Bring them all in. What do we have to do? Do the selections. Pick out the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right, guys? Got to get those uglies out there. We don't want to show them. Then what? Color correction. Then you have to do exposure. Then crop. You guys shouldn't be doing crop, right? I tell you all the time, don't crop. You're losing resolution. You're losing pixels, but you do anyways. I know. So you got to include crop in there. So now you've finally done your pics, and now you did your color correction, your exposure, and your crop. Now what? Now we have to export. We got to show them to the client, right? Just send them up into the cloud so they can go and look at it in their proofing station. Then they make their selection, come back to you and say, I love image 263 and 280. I love those two. Now what are you going to do? You got to do your edit on it, right? Do whatever you're going to do. Put it into, let's say, an 8x10. You got to send it off to get printed, or maybe print it yourself, or maybe put it onto a thumb drive, or maybe a CD. Whatever it is, you need to do that. So after everything is said and done and you've finished all this whole process, how long did your 1 hour photo shoot, your 1 hour session take? Well, I can tell you it didn't take you an hour. Probably took more, like 3. That's normally the case. If you shoot an event, for example, and it's a 2-hour event, you need to calculate for 4, because that's about what it ends up being. So you do a 1 hour photo session, you need to calculate for 2 minimum. Chances are it's going to take you 3, especially if it's anything that has to do with some final processing at the very end. So now all of a sudden your $150 per hour for that photo section is turned into what? 50. 3 hours, start out with the 150, you're at $50 an hour. Is that where you want to be? If it's not, you need to change 1 or 2 things. Number 1, your proposal needs to change and you can't do it any longer for $150. Or 2, right? You need to change your workflow here and be able to make it quicker. Once again, time is money. But don't undercut yourselves. Too many people look at jobs in a rose-colored lens instead of that nice filtered gray, and they have this impression of time that is just not accurate. It's pie in the sky, and they think that it's going to take them X amount of time, and it takes them double or triple that amount of time, and they're losing money based on it. Anyways, 2 quick tips for you guys. It's time for me to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. This week, obviously, we don't have Trevor. Like I said, he said hello to everyone. He should be back next week. We'll probably talk more about the Apple stuff, as we know he's very into the Apple. I don't want to step on his feet when it comes to Apple. If you want to get a hold of Trevor, you can do so on Twitter, and that's at Trevor Current. If you want to get a hold of me, you can do so also on, once again, Twitter. We love Twitter, don't we do? I just love Twitter. You can find me over at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H. I got to thank you guys. I just never do it, but I have close to 21,000 photographers worldwide that follow me on Twitter, and they interact on a regular basis with me. It just dawned on me. I haven't said thank you to you guys for so long. Just thank you. Thank you for following me. Thank you for all the support, all the products that I come up with, and I just want to thank you. Anyways, if you want to find any of the show notes from this episode, you can do so by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/167. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/dphotocafe. And we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Current and Joseph Christina. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with any compatible device by visiting youtube.com/dphotocafe. Be sure to subscribe to our audio feed through iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or through RSS. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.